Hi, welcome to J&A Late Night Podcast. My name is Anthony. I'm protected under Labor Code 232.5, Labor Code 6310, and freedom of speech. Myers-Mills-Brown Act, under my labor rights, freedom of speech, freedom to expose an unsafe working condition. Welcome. Okay, so I got some facts. The U.S. economy has shot up 5.7% in 2021, the highest growth rate seen since 1984. Consumer prices are expected to rise at a steady rate of over 5% by the end of 2022. And Sunline Transit operators are struggling with no living wage pay increase yet. Lauren gets a 7% increase every year, and operators and mechanics haven't had a raise since July. Recommendation, giving bargaining employees a reasonable living wage. Facts, Sunline doesn't want to pay bargaining employees when they do their COVID screenings effective June 17, 2021. Employers must comply with Cal OSHA COVID-19 emergency temporary standards, ETS, to protect workers from COVID. The ETS set forth requirements for employers relating to training, testing, face coverings, inclusions of employees with COVID-19 and those who had close contact with them, and more. I know they never told me about me being in contact with people, and I know I was around a lot of people, and the only way I found out they had COVID is because they posted it on Facebook, on our Facebook group. Okay, so fact, must my employer pay me for time spent at my employer's work site, completing certain medical checks, including temperature checks, before beginning my shift? Well, it says right here, Cal OSHA, yes, employers must pay workers for all hours worked, including time that a worker is under the control of the employer. Employers that require their workers to complete a medical check in order to begin a shift, COVID screening, even if it is recommended under the public health orders, must compensate workers for that time worked. Fact, under Cal OSHA, ETS, an employer must provide respiratory, such as N95 mask, to employees upon request, as detailed in the ETS fact. Recommendation, visit cal.gov for employer requirements around COVID-19 prevention emergency temporary standards. Okay, so this other article that I dug up, it's a little harder to read. Is my employer required to compensate me for the time spent obtaining COVID-19 tests? If an employer requires an employee to obtain a COVID-19 test or vaccination for guidance on the types of COVID-19 tests, an employer may require and on vaccinations, then the employer must pay for time it takes for testing and vaccination, including travel time. The employer must pay for the time it takes for testing or vaccination, because such time would constitute hours worked. The terms hours worked means the time during which the worker is subject to the control of the employer. Includes all the time the worker is suffered or permitted to work, whether or not is required to do so under the definition. One way to determine whether time a worker spends performing tasks must be paid at time worked. If whether the employer exercise control over the worker by requiring the worker to perform the task, and the employer requires the worker to obtain medical tests, vaccination time associated with completing the medical test, vaccination, including any time traveling, waiting for the test vaccination be performed. Look at the OSHA laws. Look at the OSHA laws. Look at the OSHA laws. I want to talk about another thing, is that we have never been given any hazard pay, no hazard pay for any of us operators. We've been on the front line. They've given us cheap masks that are not medical grade and not intended for medical grade. Cheap masks. No hazard pay. We had one of our brothers pass away from COVID. Yet this management team keeps buying these cheap half a cent masks that are not intended for medical use. You need to wake up. You need to ask for your N95 mask. Sunlight needs to provide those type of masks for our safety. Okay, enough's enough. We need to take care of ourselves, our families, and not put our own selves at danger. Okay, if that's what they want to provide, they let them provide it. They got to provide it. They can't cut corners with that money and go spend it somewhere else. So, one more thing. Another thing is that we're still on. We're going to be on still what, level 2 or level 3. There's a cut in service. There really needs to be something done about these splits. And also, I did see there's some reports of the RCTC that talk about there's no movement down in the east end of the valley. No movement at all. What about buses from Red Earth Casino? What about buses from there to connect with the Line 9, bringing people in from Bombay Beach, Salton Sea area, Red Earth Casino to connect to Imperial Transit? Let's talk about working on the east end of the valley and focus on the rural areas that there's so much funding for that nobody knows about. Believe me, I've been digging into a lot of this stuff, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm just digging and digging. The east end of the valley, people don't speak up, but guess what? I'm here to tell you, I will be their voice, and they will get service, and they're the east end of the valley, because I will be an advocate. I become more involved and getting better service to people in those areas. It's time that they're not left behind and that they're noticed, because I'm going to be their voice to make them be noticed. Years ago, we had cattle cars to Riverside. I brought it up. Why aren't there any cattle cars going to Red Earth Casino and meet up with the Imperial Transit so they can transfer people that want to go to Mexicali Dennis? They want to go visit their family after working all week here across the border, and they go to their family. What happened to that? Now the cattle car stopped. Oh, we're going to start another service. They told me, oh, they were going to start a service, and the next service they started was going to be at the east end of the valley. Guess what? Never happened. They started another one up to Riverside. Guess what? Never happened on the east end of the valley. And there it goes to San Bernardino. Guess what? What about the people that can't connect to the commuter link from Mountain Gate at 7 a.m. The bus leaves there. It used to leave at 5. They could have made the commuter link if that bus would have been 5 a.m. from Mountain Gate. But guess what? The east end of the valley is always given the short end of the stick. Not no more, because J&A is going to be part of that movement. We're going to get some service down to that Salton Sea, Imperial Transit, Red Earth Casino. We're gonna get people and buses out there to serve the rural areas, because the only rural areas in that report that I've seen said Thousand Palms. There was nothing that showed Mecca, Thermal, North Shore, 100 Palms, out there in Nyland, out there in Red Earth Casino. That's perfect. Red Earth Casino would be a connecting point. People can get off at the casino, go in there, transfer to Imperial Transit. That Imperial Transit would build, you would help build their service. You would help build their transit service because we'll be bringing in the people that connect to them. One, that would keep all the traffic off the road, a lot of the traffic off the road, and it would help our ridership if we get CNG buses, because hydrogen is not going to make it. That's not a reliable service until the technology is there. It's not going to happen. But the east end of the valley needs help. The east end of the valley needs help. And here I am, J&A, my opinions, my views, not Sunline's views. But guess what? Change is coming, and it's hammer time. Boom. I'm out.